Hey, welcome back to my channel Endless Pages. I'm Liv. Welcome to today's video, the Picture This book tag. So this tag was originally created by Shelley Swearington. I will of course tag her original video in the description if you'd like to go check it out. But I was tagged by the lovely Shell from Bookishly Shell. I'm so sorry, Shell, I've only just gotten around to filming this. You tagged me in this ages ago, so I apologize. But I'm finally filming it. We've got a bunch of questions to answer, so let's get into it. The first prompt is Love You Forever, written by Robert Munsch and illustrated by Sheila McCraw. Name a book you imagine you'll love forever. These questions are hard. They really got me thinking. I feel like I want to pick not young adult books, if you know what I mean, because I feel like if I pick some of my favourite books that are not adult, I'll be able to age and still be able to appreciate them. I feel like some young adult books I can still love, but as I get older I don't love it as much because I feel like it's a little bit younger. So for example, The Secret Garden, even though that is a children's book, just completely ignore what I just said. That one has a special place in my heart, and I read it as a child and it was given to me by my grandma, so like I feel like I'm always going to be able to love and appreciate that book. For non young adult children, something like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I feel like I really like adored that book, and it's not young adult, so the language is never gonna be too childish for me or too young for me, and I'm gonna be able to appreciate it. This might be a slightly biased answer because it's a really recent read, so it's still sticking with me, but I think it's going to stick with me for a very long time because of just how much I adored the writing style, and that is The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Ardern. I think the writing and the atmosphere of this book is just sensational. It's a book centered around Russian folklore, and we follow this family where the servant loves to tell the children stories of magic and folklore, but the youngest child, the youngest girl of the family, Vasya, knows that these stories knows that they're more than stories. She sees the spirits that guard her home, and she senses kind of a growing darkness in the forest. I thought it was sensational. The blurb of the book just like fails to really, I guess, summarize all of the different amazing topics that they discuss in this book, like gender and religion. The writing, like I said, is sensational, and I feel like it's a book I'm always going to be able to appreciate, and a book that I'm always going to love to go back to, just as well how like atmospheric it was. But yeah, that book I absolutely love. And maybe I'll say as well The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Like, I adore that book, and I think as a book I'm always going to adore. So yeah. Question number 2. Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, Very Bad Day, written by Judith Viorst and illustrated by Ray Cruz. Which books or comforting things do you turn to when you're having a bad day? So when I'm having a bad day, I'm probably more likely to not read. When I have a bad day and I want to come home and just chill, I don't usually pick up a book because I need to concentrate, and when I'm having a bad day I'm just not in the mood to concentrate on a book, so I'm more likely to turn to watching something. I have a lot of really super weird comfort shows and movies that I watch, like some real weird ones. Tangled, that's not a weird one, I feel like that's a pretty normal comfort one. Out of like, I feel like a lot of people, their comfort movies are Disney films. So yeah, definitely Tangled. That's a recent favourite comfort one. I'm obsessed with that. The weird one, there's this movie, the latest like King Arthur movie, King Arthur, The Legend of the Sword. I know, that's a weird one with Charlie Hunnam, because I'm obsessed with him. That's probably why I love it so much. I just find it as a really good movie. I know it's a weird comfort one to watch, so if I've had a bad day or a long day, you can find me watching that film for like the millionth time. Teen Wolf. Yeah, I know. Is it a good show? No. Is it a comfort show? Absolutely. I was obsessed with this when I was a teenager, so it's one that I always turn back to. Or like the originals, the Vampire Diaries spin-off, like season 3, I'll go back and watch that. If I want like to laugh, if I'm like I really need to laugh right now, I'm feeling like a bit down, I just need a good giggle, I'll pop on Parks and Rec. That's one of my favourite sitcoms, absolutely ever, never fails to make me laugh. Every episode is 10 out of 10. Or a recent favourite, The IT Crowd, because that's It's really like obscure, like British humor, but I love it. It's really good. So those are some of my comfort ones, or I'll pop on a Marvel film because I love Marvel. In terms of reading, I have found recently when I've been in a bad mood in the last couple of weeks, or I've been tired from work or TAFE and I don't want to read, I've been reading manga. Just because I'm really enjoying reading manga, and I'm definitely picking up the right stories and stories that I'm really enjoying, and it makes me feel that I'm still accomplishing something when I'm in a bad mood, like, and can't pick up a book, because I'm still getting reading done. Manga is reading, all types of reading are reading. So when I'm having a bad day, I have been picking up like Spy Family, because that's so cute and never fails to put a smile on my face. Also just my usuals, like the Gone series I'll pick up, or Six of Crows duology, or City of Bones, the usual stuff as well. Question number 3 is The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. Which book series / character sparked your hunger for reading? I couldn't tell you. I can list some books that I can remember reading when I was really young, like I'll just tell you what I read when I was younger that I can remember reading. So I was obsessed with the Rainbow Magic series by Daisy Meadows, I think. Yeah, they're like the fairy books. There was like Ruby the Red Fairy and all that. I even had like a little Ruby the Red Fairy doll. And yeah, I loved those books. I had a very big collection of those. There was this book series that I looked up that I had to find the name, called Jane Blonde, by Jill Marshall, I think. Yeah, I loved those books. They were like spy books, but like with a female spy. I really, really, really loved those books. It's kind of like taken inspiration from like James Bond and kind of Alex Rider kind of vibes, but a little bit younger. I loved those books. I think that's where my obsession with like James Bond kind of started. And then I also read like Jacqueline Wilson and Kathy Cassidy. I read lots of their books, even though, because their books were very kind of similar style, even though I look back now and I'm like, wow, those books were really dark and like depressing. I don't know why so many of us liked them, but yeah, I loved their books. Those were kind of the books that I remember reading when I was younger. And then when I hit high school, I've said this before on the channel, that's when my reading really kicked off. Don't know what series I read first, but that was that period where I discovered young adult, had access to a high school library with lots of new books, which was just very eye-opening. So I read the Hunger Games trilogy, obviously, by Suzanne Collins. I read the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. Then I read like the Gone series by Michael Grant. I read like the Vampire Academy series by Rochelle Mead. All of those kind of peak YA books. And that's what started my obsession in high school. And then after high school, I stopped reading for whatever reason. And I picked up the Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. I forgot her name for a second there, and that's what sparked my reading again after high school. So question number 4, Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. What's the most unusual book you've ever read? So when I was watching Shell's video, when she was answering that question, this book popped into my head, and I remember being so weirded out when I was reading it, and it took me a good hour to try and figure out what this book was, because I couldn't find it. Well, it technically was in my Goodreads, but when I was searching through my Read, it wasn't coming up. And I couldn't remember the title or the author, and I was like, how on earth am I going to find this book? So I was just searching up plot points that I remember, and it took me so long, but I finally found it, and it was so satisfying. It's called In the Dark Spaces by Kelly Black, who's either Kiwi or Aussie, I believe. All I remember, I read the blurb of this book, and apparently it's about this girl. I remember the alien part. She gets like abducted by aliens and like falls in love with one of them or something. I remember being so weirded out. My review on Goodreads says, I was really unsure and reluctant to continue this book at the start, but I ended up loving it. A really unique story that brought up English, Olivia, interesting questions about morals and ethics and the sacrifices you make for those you love. Yeah, so obviously the book left an impact on me, but I remember it being a really surreal experience reading this book. So the second answer for this question is Flowers in the Attic. This is by V.C. Andrews. Again, I have no idea how old I was when I read this book, but I was probably too young, and I remember being like emotionally scarred by this book. I remember my mum was like, you should read it, like I read it when I was younger, you should read it, and I read it and I was like, Mum, I don't think you like quite remember what happens in this book. I remember being traumatized. Like, this was a really messed up book. I cannot tell you why. There was some weird like menstruation stuff that really creeped me out, and like potentially some sibling stuff. I can't remember. I am very curious though. Like, I just remember it leaving a bad taste in my mouth, and it still to this day has, but I can't remember why, because I can't remember what happens in the book. So if you guys would be interested, I'm kind of morbidly curious to go see why this book scarred me so much. So I'm thinking of rereading it now as an adult and seeing what it's actually like. I believe this is a series as well, so let me know if you'd be interested in seeing a reading vlog of me rereading the series and reliving the trauma. So question number 5, I'm just going to skip because I don't really have an answer, and that is, what is your favourite book featuring the natural world? I don't really have an answer for that one, so we're just going to skip to question 6, which is Goodnight Moon by Margaret Wise Brown. Do you read at bedtime? Did anyone else ever read to you at bedtime? And do you read to someone else at bedtime? I don't read to someone else at bedtime. My parents did read to me at bedtime, I believe, and I'm trying to make more of an effort to read at bedtime. I feel like when I go to bed, I'm more likely to pop on a video, which is probably not good for my eyes, or probably adds to me not being able to go to sleep straight away because I'm staring at a screen. So I'm trying to make more of an effort to read at bedtime. I read anytime though, like literally whenever I can. I should be reading now instead of filming this. But yeah, I don't have a specific time where I like to read the most, to be honest. As long as it's quiet and peaceful, I'm happy to read wherever. I read a lot of public transport because I don't drive. So that's where I get a lot of my reading done. As long as there's sprints going on or a quiet spot, I'm happy to read. I've been listening to a lot more audiobooks recently, which is great, so I can read a lot more during the day when I'm going to places, going to work or going to social stuff. So yeah, I don't have a favourite reading time, but I am trying to read more at bedtime, yes. Question number 7, Guess How Much I Love You by Sam McBratney and illustrated by Anita Haram. Who had the biggest influence on you as a reader? So this is a question I was really thinking about, and I feel like it's a combination of my grandma and my mum. My grandma is a massive reader, not of fiction. She reads like non-fiction biographies and stuff like that, but she's a big part of my life, and especially still is, but when I was growing up as well, she spoiled me and my brother rotten, but bought me lots and lots of books. I always remember her buying me books. My mum as well. I was just talking to my mum about this before, and she did take me to the library a lot when I was younger. Yeah, it's good memories going to my local library. That's not there anymore, it's moved and it's changed, which is very sad. But yeah, she'd take me to the library, she'd patiently wait as I scrolled through every shelf, and she'd try and pick out books and say, what about this one, what about this one? So yeah, that was definitely one of my favourite things to do when I was younger, go to the library with my mum and pick out like 20 books that I would never read in time before they were due back, which I still do actually. But yeah, I'd say my grandma and my mum, definitely big influences on my reading. Yeah, and I guess without realizing encouraged it to be this level of craziness. Question number 8, The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. Which book or set of books would you give to an emerging reader? This is an interesting question. I have a couple of different answers, I think. We were talking about this in class actually, because I study to be a library technician. About emerging readers, because I'm doing like a promote literature class, which is my favorite class so far. Yeah, a lot because of TikTok and in the pandemic, a lot of emerging readers are emerging, especially in Australia. The percentage of young readers is rising because of TikTok, and because of the popularity of BookTok, which I think is so cool. And I noticed a lot of young readers, especially when I'm book shopping, are heading straight towards BookTok tables and reading a lot of contemporary romance. So if you're like just getting into reading and like the thought of reading massive fantasies or like biographies is just not your thing, I feel like contemporary romance is something majority of people can love. and there's so many different tropes and styles that I feel like there's a romance story out there for everyone, no matter your sexual orientation or the tropes that you like, or your, you know, whatever. There's lots and lots of different romance books out there. So and they're super easy to read and easy to fly through and get addicted to. So I'd say contemporary romance, even though it's like the one genre I don't like. If you're looking to get into kind of like fantasy, I would say middle grade, because if you're looking for something easy and fast paced, if you have like trouble like sticking to a book or paying attention, middle grade is great. They have fantastic stories, and the language is obviously simpler, and a lot of them are great. I'm just starting to get into middle grade myself. I'd say like the Percy Jackson series. I feel like that's a fantastic series. What other books can I recommend? Obviously for YA, I'd say The Hunger Games, because it's one of the ones that got me into reading. It's really fun. It's really popular. Or like just Google like movies that have come from books. Watch movie trailers. I feel like maybe that's a good way to see what kind of book that you would like, because a lot of movies are based off books. Or I'd even say graphic novels. Again, if you're unsure if your reading's for you, or if you're like intimidated by like reading a big chunky book, graphic novels, they're such a quick and easy way to get into reading. I recommend the Heartstopper series, of course. That is a adorable series that I feel like anyone would love. Yeah, I know this question was probably more asking for specific books, but I would also say audiobooks. Like I keep saying in this video, I'm obsessed with them recently. They're such a good way to feel like you're getting so much reading accomplished when you have, everyone has such busy lives and so much else going on in their lives that it's so hard sometimes to find time for reading, and audiobooks is fantastic. I love it. I pop it on public transport, I pop it on while I'm waiting for friends, while I'm walking to go meet them. Like, it just is a great way, and it's so engaging, and I love them. I love audiobooks. So if you're just getting into reading and don't want to spend all this money on physical books, audiobooks, they're great. So I'm going to tag 3 people, only if you guys want to, you don't have to. I'm going to tag Meredith from Reading with Merv, I'm going to tag Sash from Sash Reads, and I'm going to tag Lana from Lore and Lullabies. I would love to see you guys do this tag if you would like to. So thank you so much for watching this tag video. I hope you enjoyed. As always, all of my social media links are in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be very lovely, and subscribe so you can see whenever I post a new video. I will see you guys in whatever I post next. Bye!